Hello and welcome to GPTV on Tuesday the 18th of June. My name is Philip Kingston.
And I'm Gary Peer.
And Gary, what an unbelievable weekend we have just had. I don't mind saying I didn't come into the sales meeting yesterday because I was too tired after the massive weekend that we had. 22 auctions, Gary.
You don't have the stamina you used to, but he is a man now with a 5 in front of his age, so you can understand that. And once again, happy birthday for last week, Philip.
Thanks, Gary.
And my son, Daniel Mark Peer, yesterday, he had turned 16.
I thought it was today, otherwise I would have rung him. I thought it was his birthday today.
No,
did either of us ring?
Yeah, I think I rang, yeah.
Did Irene or I ring?
Yes, you've got it covered, Philip, don't worry. That's what wonderful wives are for. And you know, we tried to plan to have his birthday the same day as you, Phil. We were 4 days late, in Peer fashion, just a little bit late, but happy birthday to Daniel Mark for yesterday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Sorry
I didn't ring.
Let's talk a little bit.
I was thinking of you though.
You actually did ring, but don't worry about that. You're just a little bit vague because you're in your 50s now, Phil, and you've had a big weekend. Let's talk about the weekend that was, because it was enormous. Did they get any better or bigger?
Well, Gary, you know what? Given the fact that the industry clearance rate this weekend was 71%, and you know everybody's talking about a wonderful clearance rate of 71%.
Bragging, boasting.
Well, the boys and girls from GPA come screaming home with an 89% clearance rate.
86.
What's 3% amongst friends?
86%.
86 is still pretty impressive, I don't mind saying.
19 of 22, Phil, it was sensational. I pulled up okay after the weekend, actually. I don't know why you were so tired.
Well, Gary, that's because I, on Sunday, did a 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, 2:30, 3:30, 4:30, went home, had a quick dinner, then went out and tried to sell another property.
Well, that's
still in the making, though.
A feeble excuse. My Saturday could not have started worse. I got up on Saturday morning and there was no hot water. That's how my day started. No hot water. Then I jumped in the car, after having a lovely cold shower. My glasses broke. My mic piece wasn't there. My badge was chipped. That is the start of my day. I kid you not, on Saturday.
How'd you go though on Saturday, Gary?
Had a great day.
Tell us about Saturday.
First auction.
I might just go into my little piece of technology here with the iPad where everything's in front of me. I see that you're still on the old-fashioned pen and paper, Gary, but try and stay with us. Tell us about your Saturday.
What are you going to do when that runs out of batteries then?
Well, Gary,
I'll have my pen and paper and you'll be struggling, won't you? You look foolish.
It's 98%.
Okay, let's talk about what did happen Saturday, Phil, because it started off for me at Saturn Street, Philip. Off the planet there in Saturn Street, we had a great auction. Reserve of $750,000 and we sold it for $811,000. A funny thing happened to that auction. It was written up by the Sunday Age. A funny thing happened is that the buyer walked off, stormed off, disappointed, not with me, just frustrated, got in the car, drove around the block, came back, made a bid from the car.
Really?
Did you not? Yeah. And then drove off again when someone outbid them.
I got to tell you, I know how that person feels, frustrated with you.
Seen it all, Phil. We can't review them all, but tell us about Shoobra Road.
Shoobra Road was great, Gary. I mean, look, let's bring that up on screen very quickly because these 2-bedroom, single-story villas, they come in the horseshoe blocks. We would probably sell 3 or 4 of these a month.
Yeah, we would.
These have been repriced, Gary.
Yes.
It was not so long ago these were
450,
kind of 475 to 525. That was the range.
Yep.
Then they were in the 5 to 550 bracket.
Yep.
I reckon the last 12 months these are all now being repriced because we've now sold 3 in the last week and a half, all in excess of $600,000. So I reckon these have clicked up another notch to 575 to 625, which is fascinating.
And we've been pushing them for years, haven't we?
have.
We reckon they are humdingers, those properties. I don't know if that's a
technical
legitimate real estate term. Wouldn't put that on the ad, but they are beauties. We went to Poplar Street, Phil. I saw you in action. Did a damn fine job. Talk us through that auction.
That was fun, Gary. That's a really nice property. This is the third time I think we've sold it.
Yes.
So it's been a little honey pot for us, I don't mind saying.
Absolutely. And that reserve was $1,020,000.
And we sold it for
$120,000, Phil.
$120,000, so $100,000 over the reserve.
Yeah.
Gorgeous property, great street, walking distance to Glen Huntley Road. Really gorgeous home.
Phil, as it was Queen's birthday weekend, it was very fitting that we had the week after a auction in Queen's Avenue. You did that one?
What a great house that was, Gary. The same family had been living there for in excess of 30 years. We had it was raining outside, so we held it in the lounge room. We had a 2-way battle between 2 people. One party came straight out of the blocks. No chance for me to put in a vendor bid, which I just love.
Yes.
And
reserve was 1.2, Philip, and you sold it for 1,260, and I love that house. It's in a view of the race course.
And it does. And we sold it to a really nice couple with the most gorgeous little child who was there during the whole auction. we had a bit of fun with them.
Yeah, you're good with kids and animals, aren't you?
I am.
Not like
I am.
W.C. Fields. He says you don't work with kids and animals, but you do well.
I do exceptionally well.
You wouldn't have wanted to work with that pig. You should read the paper yesterday about the pig in Seaford. Attacked a man, a pig in Seaford. How'd you be just walking down the street in Seaford, have a pig attack you? It really happened.
I've got to tell you, it's a crazy place.
Young Street, Philip.
Go there at your own peril.
Yeah, exactly. We're not selling anything in Seaford. Dangerous.
Actually, we have sold property in Seaford.
I know. Got the hell out of there quickly too before the pig got you. Just not kosher, is it, when a pig attacks you when you're walking down the street?
No.
Seaford, we're not talking about any further, but we will talk about Young Street because that very edgy, beautiful property I had the pleasure of selling, Philip, in Young Street. Jeremy Rosen's listed that one. Sold it through our St Kilda office. The reserve there was $840. We sold it for $865. Terrific auction. Let's move into Sunday.
A real pattern across the weekend, this weekend, Gary, where just about every reserve we have, we beat, and some considerably, some by a little bit, but just about every reserve was beaten.
We should graph the average over reserve.
We could do that, Gary. You're a fascinating guy, and you can stay home on a Saturday night looking and comparing graphs. Whilst the rest of us move on, and let's talk about Sunday.
We've had some GPTV feedback, Philip. I've been called a bad actor.
Yeah.
Which is great, not that I ever wanted to. And somebody thought I was drunk when when we did that one about the that hangover night. And I'm not a drinker, just to tell you. That was the joke of it, actually, because one drink and I'm a mess. So
and I must say today, Gary, I think this is the first GPTV episode where your hair actually looks okay.
Is that right? I did have a car. I thought you wouldn't notice. Let's talk about Sunday, Phil. Halstead Street, auctioned that Sunday morning. It was a reserve of $1 million, and we sold it for $1,016,000, Phil.
The viewers might like to have a quick look at this property because I reckon this is the style of property of the future.
Yes.
No longer can a lot of people afford to have a single house on a single parcel of land. So these two-storey town residences with the party wall going down the centre, that is the future of real estate in the inner suburbs.
Headlines right here, right now. Record-breaking headlines, Philip.
We like to think that we break all the news stories on GPTV.
This is bigger than Ben-Hur because it happened. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it did happen on Sunday. The property in Octavia Street that we featured on GPTV we sold. The price is undisclosed. That's not the big story. The big story is
we've gone international.
We have. The big story is this. When we ask people at every sale where you found it, the answers are saw it in the paper, the local paper, the Age, the internet. One of your people told us about it. That was it. But this time it was different because this time we were in the kitchen signing the documents. The most delightful families bought it, and when I've asked the question, the room's gone silent, Philip. The father of the lady that bought it is pacing around the back, and everybody says when I ask, where did you see this property? They stop, they look to Dad, and he says, I saw it on GPTV from...
But wait, the story gets much more fascinating.
Yeah. Because he saw it on GPTV in Malaysia. So there you go. And he, so who would have ever thought that we have a selling tool now? Who would have thought two idiots talking with thinking no one would ever listen except maybe family and friends?
Can you imagine?
There you go.
Fast forward now to our next holiday in Malaysia.
Yes.
We're going through customs and there's a screaming mob of fans out there,
Philip,
and we're going to have to be ushered through by our minders to get out of the crowd because we're such celebrities now in Malaysia.
Incredible, delightful family. Congratulations to them. And what can I say? Now it is selling properties. GPTV. More powerful than one would ever have thought.
In fact, I would like, if that man is watching, a very interesting fellow. I had a bit of a chat with him before the auction. And I'm more than happy to come to Malaysia at some stage and stay with you.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
Looking forward.
Just what he wants, I'm sure. Let's talk about Albion Street, Philip. We sold that property in East St Kilda, or Balaclava. I had the pleasure of putting that one into the hammer fill. Interesting property, reserved 600, sold it for, wait for it, $730,000.
Wow.
Big result.
Wow,
great.
result.
You sold Oran Grove. That was a good one.
Oran
Undisclosed.
Grove development site. Sold it to a local prominent developer. So I'm looking forward to working with them to transform that property from an older style house with just a huge block of land to something fabulous.
They will create something beautiful, no doubt, Philip, as you did with the sale of 180 Hawthorn Road. Grace us with the story.
Well, it's a really lovely story there, Gary, because...
It is undisclosed, so don't
I'm not
blurt the figure out.
The price, but this is the third time, I think, in 12 years that we've sold this property.
Great house.
And each person moves in and loves living there and moves on for their own reasons. The current owner has been transferred or made the move overseas to Silicon Valley, I believe, Gary.
There you go.
But another young, gorgeous couple with a couple of children have taken the baton and have moved into this.
Is Silicon Valley the place where they do all that like plastic surgery?
No, Gary. No. This is why we have a great partnership, because basically in a good partnership
that's what Silicon
need somebody that's worldly wise, and you need somebody that is just a complete moron.
He
And
did
it's
say, by the way,
Silicon Valley.
that gentleman, that delightful gentleman from Malaysia said it's called GPTV, but Philip Kingston does all the talking. He couldn't understand that, neither can I.
Thank goodness for that.
Let's
given the
move
sort
on.
of stupidity that comes out of your mouth.
9 Clarinda Street. We sold that one with a reserve
Okay,
of 2.3.
I want to talk about this
and we
property.
sold it for 2.5. Phil, go talk.
Okay,
Blurb.
I want to talk about this property because this is
Blab.
a really good example of what we do know about real estate. Gary.
Yes.
We always knew that this was a popular style of house.
Yes.
We had a busy day on that Sunday.
We did.
And the vendor of Clarinda Street wanted it on that Sunday.
A prominent real estate
the
agent.
only time that was available was for me to do it at 4:30 in the afternoon, keeping in mind that it's winter, therefore it's dark early.
And I could have done
We
the auction
often
earlier.
get vendors saying to us, what's the best time to have an auction? And we run them from 10:30 in the morning till 4:30 in
Even
the
9:30,
afternoon.
we've done 9:30 a.m.
And we know that there is actually no good or bad time. The buyers will always be there. We could hold it at 2:30 in the morning, Gary.
could.
The buyers would be
I
there.
don't think we
but
should,
but,
though.
But the neighbours probably wouldn't be. So 4:30 in the afternoon is considered the wrong time on a Sunday afternoon in winter. I arrived there, and I kid you not, I reckon there was 250, 250 people at this auction. We knew it was going to be big, so we actually had
Put the coffee cart in there.
we've got a guy that we're now doing coffee with that comes to our auctions. So we had the coffee there, had a real
We paying for
carnival.
that?
Yep, we had a real carnival atmosphere, and 250 people at 4:30 in the afternoon. Reserve of $2.3 million, sold it for $2.5 million. What a great piece of theatre. We might have some photos to put up there. I don't know whether we do. If we do, we're going to show them. If we don't, please give me a call. Drop over at any time, and I'll show you my little photo album of that property. I'm sure it's going to be a queue at the front door.
You think people got nothing better to do than look at your photo album of Clarinda Street? Let's talk about where we are right here. What a pleasure it is to be in East Brighton, Philip, in Trinity Court. This is a fantastic and most fascinating street because people just don't move from this street. It's one of the most tightly held streets probably in Melbourne.
Subdivided in the 1950s, Gary.
Yes.
Tightly held little court. And this is a court where people just seem to be incredibly friendly to the point that for years and years, if not decades, this street closes on Australia Day, which is the 26th of January every year.
It's the hottest ticket in town, Phil.
Pretty
The
sure.
hottest ticket in town.
And all of the neighbours get together. In fact, not only do the neighbours get together, but the people that have lived in the street previously come to the street party, including the original owners and builders of this house, which are the Klettner family, and they are still coming back to the street parties. This was designed by a famous Australian architect by the name of Kevin Borland, who worked alongside, for a number of years, Harry Seidler, one of Australia's most, in fact, the world's most celebrated architects. So,
Did you just know all that, did you?
I'm an incredible mine of information. A fascinating guy, actually. But if you want to see the most fabulous house from the 1950s, it's been modernised, so it's a contemporary home today, still got the flavour of its years. Come along to Trinity Court. Gary, that's enough about Trinity Court. Let's talk about very briefly what's coming up this weekend. We are over time, so I'm only going to let you talk about one property this weekend. What have you got?
Well, I've talked about the one, which is Trinity, but I'll talk about one other, and this is in Booran Road in Glen, number 2 at 132 Booran Road, Glen. It's a fantastic apartment, Phil, in a great location and beautifully presented. It's up on your screen now. If you have to get to one other auction other than Trinity Court, make it this one. Quiet weekend ahead, only 6 or 7 auctions compared to last week. Get a bit of a breather, but it's back into it next week, Phil, on GPTV. I'm Gary Peer. It's a pleasure to bring you all the great real estate news. See you next week.
I'm Philip Kingston. We've gone international. See you next week.
Bye now.